Welcome back today for another episode of Boat and Blade. Today we're going to be seeing if we can save Sturgia and see if their faction is redeemable in a custom battle just to test their naval skills out versus the very standard opponent, the Empire, the common enemy in the game. We're going to have the Mariner class, the Reaver versus the Mariner class of the Empire, the Naute fight each other, and then also we're going to include the Sturgian bowman and the Palatine Guard bowman from the Empire. Now the Naute is loved by War Sales players. However, the Palatine Guard is sort of standard. I think seen roughly standard as a bowman, as a elite bowman class. And the Sturgian, the veteran archer, is one of the most hated troops in the game since the release of Bannerlord. And the Reaver has been a big disappointment for a lot of Sturgian enjoyers um, since the release of War Sales. So if we're listening to public opinion, we should lose this custom battle. We're gonna have the same amount of troops on both sides. Loggias have actually less troop capacity than a drone, of course. However, if I only have one Loggia versus one Droman, then I don't have enough men on the Sturgian side to really make it fair. And if I have two ships, then I have to reduce the amount of guys on the Loggia so that it's not too many Sturgians versus the Empire. I just want to make sure that the battle looks fair in this custom battle, because we're gonna, I don't want anyone to say, hey, they won because they had more men. So really good to see the quality of the Loggia and the quality of its troops versus the quality of the Droma and the quality of its troops from the Empire Navy. I mean, these are common troops used in the Empire or Navy. I mean, the Naute is the Mariner class, but also every ship generally has some archers. So now, what do I think about the Loggia? The Loggia, it's not as impressive as a boarding ship as the Drakkar because it moves relatively slowly, with acceleration being pretty slow compared to the Drakkar. It's also not the best ramming ship like the Imperial ships because it also has low acceleration and weight behind it. So it's sort of just has a little bit of everything. It does have a platform at the stern, but it's not high, so it's not as good as the Valandian ships either. Right now these ships have no upgrades, neither does the Droman. The platform, though, it does have these staircases on the side, and if you put the ships next to each other in a defensive position with the stern facing the enemy, this will provide at least some protection to the troops on board. And in between the ships, it creates almost like a trench situation. So you're creating a sort of trench-like landscape on the sea while you're fighting the Droman, which has a higher deck and higher stern and bow platforms. So it's not the greatest advantage, but you got to use what you have. I think people would typically think, oh, Loggia is probably going to be a good assault ship because it has a ram, because it looks like a good boarding ship. It looks like the Nord ships. However, it doesn't function the same way the Imperial ships or the Nord ships function, which you would think it would, but it's not really a heavy hitter, nor is it the fastest ship on the sea. So I'm going to use it defensively, since I think that's probably going to be the greatest advantage, even if it's also not as good as the Valandian ships. However, we're trying to address the problem in the game, which is the War Sales map for Sturgia puts Sturgia at a position where you need to use the navy, since the geography shows mostly water around Sturgia, right? So it looks like they're not going to ram us. They're going to board us. I think it would have been wiser for them to ram us, especially since they have the wind and they just have quite a large size that could disrupt, kill some of my troops, and even maybe disrupt my strategy and positioning. See, initially we're getting a lot of kills here, so people are kind of sleeping on the Sturgia. I know there were improvements to the bowmen, and I know they were hated throughout since the release of Bannerlord. But they're getting kills, and also the Axemen are getting kills, even though people say, well, hey, the Nate have the best situation. They have the throwing javelin, which are better than throwing axes. But look, right now, who's getting the kills? And even with the low ground, we can see I can hide behind this position here, and that gives me some defenses. So this is actually protecting the troops on the other ship. And since the platforms aren't too high, it's not blocking too much. So it's offering just enough protection and allowing the guys on the closer ship to just get all their throws and shots off, while the closer ship to the Dromon just goes in for the boarding and the assault with their Sturgian axes. And you can see here how these troops can work well together. It's, people look at, hey, how does this troop fare against this troop? But that's not how the game works. No one plays with just one troop unless you're playing just Botanian Fion champion only, right? So what you want to do is use these troops together in a way that's symbiotic and uses the tactics and strategies that best fit Sturgia and their technology, their ships, their weapons, their skills for their troops. And this does pretty well, as you can see. We didn't take many losses at all, and we defeated a much stronger Imperial force. Given that they have a drone, it's worked pretty well. So what's the strategy? How do you save Sturgia? The best way you're going to save Sturgia is if you recognize the new War Sales map layout. You got to study your geography. Look, yeah, the map is divided now. They cut a big river into it, and I don't even know if it's more of like they cut a big river into it, and now there's a lake. So what are you gonna do about this? You could complain about the river, but really it doesn't take long to cross it. So I don't think it's a real excuse. It would be nice if you could put blockades on rivers so Sturgia could blockade that area, because I think that would be a huge advantage. Then no trade besides their ships could come through. And that would be, I think, a defensive and a economic advantage for Sturgia if they added that to the game. The other thing is, I think if you're playing a Sturgia, you should make that lake your lake, like dominate those waters. Sort of like Swedish Empire strategy if you look at history. So you want to make that body of water like a Sturgian lake, just like the Swedes try to make the Baltic Sea a Swedish lake, So you want to move south and make the empire your primary target. If the Vlandians take Revel, okay, that's fine. If the Nords take Balgard, let it go. If the Khuzaits take Tal or are attacking Tal, it's okay. Your primary focus is keep 4 main cities: Sibir, Varnavopol, Amur, Varcheg, and to attack Argoron, Aprella, Diathma. You want to get those cities, which are very prosperous, and then you want to attack further south to destroy the Northern Empire, and then go on to the Southern Empire, as that's probably the path of least resistance, and then you're going to go on to attack Western Empire last, and then deal with the remaining barbarian factions. that whole time you may be fighting an asymmetric war against the Khuzaits, and if any other factions attack you, I would just be defensive and protect and make huge garrisons for Varcheg, Sibir, Varnavapul, and Amur, and make the other, and just let them take the other ones. And then you want to attack the Khuzaits in their waters. Their navy is not so good. They have no mariners. Their ship is okay. It's not the best at anything, really. The Lodya itself is also not the greatest ship. It's not as good as boarding as Drakkar, because it's not very fast. And just because it's not very fast, it's also not the best at ramming, like the Droman or some of the Imperial ships are. The Lodya is okay. It has an okay acceleration. It's not super impressive. It has okay turning. Um, it's just sort of standard. It doesn't have the highest battlements, but you can use it defensively. And since the geography shows that you have so much water around you as Sturgia, you need to use it to your advantage. And I wouldn't worry about the waters to the west and the north. I would just worry about those two bodies of water south of Sturgia. And while the Khuzaits are attacking you at Tial on land, you're going to be harassing them in their waters where they're weakest, and that's going to divide their attention. And you shouldn't even need that much effort to do that while you're at war with the Northern Empire, attacking them at Argoron and Diathma. And you should really be pressing on those two cities first, because they're going to try to attack Amor. And if they're attacking Amor and you're attacking Hippocratea, then you're just going to bring the war to that area. Versus if you're attacking the coastal cities, their attention is going to be also divided. And then you could take those cities which are very prosperous and move forward to Aprella. And I would actually just take Aprella and Sinope, Sine, I don't know how to say that, Sinopa, and Maizea, and leave Aprocotea for last, because they're probably also going to be conflicting with other factions in regards to Aprocotea. It's a very conflict-oriented city, and it constantly changes hands. And I would then go the path of least resistance, attack the Southern Empire, then the Western Empire. So you make those two bodies of water yours, and then claim the rest of the land south. And I wouldn't worry about the north. I would let those cities which the other barbarian factions are likely to take, let them take it, and just go super defensive, put large garrisons in the 4 cities, Sturgian cities you want to keep in the center. And yeah, it would be really cool if they added a blockades on rivers. But besides that, that's what I would do for Sturgia. And I think no other strategy is really going to work. So try that out, see if it helps you, and follow for next time on Boat and Blade for Bannerlord World Sales Tactics and Strategies, focusing on naval tactics and strategies for the World Sales Gameplay DLC. Like and subscribe. Thank you. Until next time.